Why this setting? Very good question, obviously. We feel that the American Revolution is a very significant portion of history. If you look at it, it's at the time there were some British colonies, so it was a British Civil War fought on foreign soil. And so the European powers at the time had a lot of focus on the conflict. France got involved and led to the French Revolution. Obviously, you're witnessing the birth of a big country, very powerful country now, the United States of America. It's a very significant part of history, and I think it's also not very covered in video games in general. So it's really, I think it's going to be fresh for players to go there and witness a portion of history that a lot of people know. You'll be playing Connor, who is half native, half Mohawk, and half English. So he will start the game being neutral, if you want, to that American Revolution conflict raging up. And but he will see his village destroyed by the British troops. So he will decide to get involved and fight for justice in a way. So he will finally find the assassins and join that order and get part in the events of the American Revolution, leading to the creation of that new country. For example, Altair was driven by duty. He was a warrior monk. That was his job, to be an assassin. Ezio was a charming Italian driven by revenge. It was very personal, like the Templars killed his family, basically. And for Connor, it's more a sense of justice. He's the defender of people. You will see how the Native Americans are treated in America in that conflict, and he will be really inspired by the sentiment of justice. And obviously with the assassins, with their liberty philosophy and the whole American Revolution, that you will find that the Patriots were also oppressed by the British crown at the time. So all these themes mixing up together really defines a strong character, I think.
The time is now near at hand which must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves.
The main character being Native American, we really wanted the player to be at ease in the forest because the forest will be fully explorable as a map, and we really wanted the character to be super at ease in the forest, so we rewrote the whole behavior system around him being able to climb trees and rocks. The climbing is much more organic, much more fluid. Also, his running portion is very powerful, very agile. He's like a train going to his target. So a lot of changes were made to the way the character behaves to showcase that new character. And what's cool about what we discovered in the forest, basically we applied it to the cities to give a new experience to the player. So we think that's pretty interesting. On top of that, there's a lot of the usual stuff you can imagine happening in the forest, like hunting animals. That's in the game, and maybe stalking your prey in like lower bushes, and that could apply to redcoats as well. So these are examples of gameplay happening on AC3, which I think are pretty fresh. The thing about muskets and pistol is that they took around 2 minutes to reload. I think the world record is around a minute, so that basically prevents the game from becoming an all-out shooting fest. So it involves actually more strategies. We rewrote the fight system around that, so the guards will form a firing line against you, and if you manage to dodge in some way their first salvo, you can engage them in hand-to-hand combat. Obviously the player will have muskets and pistols of his own, so you can fire muskets on the most significant dangerous targets and then get the rest on hand-to-hand combat. In terms of a hand-to-hand combat, like I said, we rewrote the system to support dual-handed combat. So Connor can have a tomahawk and a knife, for example, in his hands, or a tomahawk and a pistol. So he really fights with both hands, really in a very powerful manner, I think. So hand-to-hand combat plays a big part on AC3, with the addition, I think, of pistols and muskets, which makes opportunities for new strategies.
Our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance
As the other Assassin's Creed game, we take history very seriously. We have historians on staff that help us out with all those facts, and we have to know also that it's a very detailed portion of history. Like for example, Benjamin Franklin, who will be featured in the game, we know almost on an hour-to-hour basis where he was during the Revolution, what he did. There's a lot of documentation. Boston and New York, which will be playable maps in the game, we have very detailed maps, very accurate maps of the cities at that time. So there's a lot of references, and we can't go without. We can't ignore them basically. So this game will be pretty historically accurate in a way. And as you might be interested to know, around 80% of the characters will be historical figures. So that's a pretty big cast.
For the most abject submission, we have, therefore, to resolve to conquer or die.